same time, some of them, they are quite suspect in terms of our future as a country. And of course, I mean, we're not only touching locally, but also we'll touch on the international news as well. So, Spokie, what you got?
Okay. Earlier on, we did touch on the deaths of two prominent South Africans, which is the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Aziz Pahad, who died on Wednesday at the age of 82, and also the death of Uzaleka Mandela, who died at the age of 43 this week. And she was also buried this week on Friday after her fight from cancer. And then other stories that made headlines is the arrest of Utotomieni and former Busasa director Trevor Matendra. They were also granted bail. They appeared in court facing charges of fraud and corruption. And also, Utotomieni has become the first head of a Chapter 9 institution to be removed from her post. She did suffer several dozen court losses during her term in office.
Who's that?
Busisiwe Mkhwebane,
Oh,
public
Busisiwe
protector,
Mkhwebane,
yeah. Kaloku, she's the head of a Chapter 9, yeah.
I mean, can we go a little bit into that, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, and what actor, in your own view, was her downfall? Was it the number of cases? I know that they put a spread on the number of cases that she's lost and, or was it maybe her, partly because she's also partly being accused of being a political player in terms of her investigations, seeking to influence or being influenced by politics, and trying to play in that space. And that's why maybe her demise came the way that it did. What do you think? Was it the legal cases or what?
Look, it's very difficult to use that, because one of the things that's often said, but we don't pay much attention to, is that the cases that we know, the ones that we hear about, are maybe 5% of the cases that the public protector deals with. We know them because they're the most prominent one and the most egregious ones. So we don't know whether this public protector might actually have solved thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases of ordinary people who suffered prejudice of one form or another at the hands of the police or other public institution or something or the other. Okay. So I'm just saying it's not completely fair to use that because it doesn't give you the whole picture. But perhaps from where we are standing, that's all we can work with, because that's what we see. Having said that, I think it's not so much the losing of the cases that her detractors, if I can put it that way, find problematic. It's the competence or thereof in doing those cases that it seems to show. Not so much the losing of a case. I mean, they're very good lawyers, very good jurists who lose cases, but nevertheless do not lose the esteem. But it's like the public protector botched this case
herself.
How the evidence was shown, how the case whether it went on review to court, and what the sort of shortfalls that were found by the courts, because ordinarily the public protector would only lose a case because it's been challenged on review. And then what the judges pronounce now as the weaknesses in the process of the public protector is what would be sort of the biggest indictment. And I think there was just too much of that. I mean, there were some reports where academics commented and says, no, not even my students would write opinions of that kind. That sort of thing. Not that the public protector would write them herself, but because she's the responsible authority.
In the end, I mean, the buck stops with her. She would have had to look
and
through
particularly
those
for such for the want of a better word, such important matters, as it were. So one side of it was almost a charge of lack of the requisite competence. To serve in that office level. At that level. of course, the problem with impeaching a public protector is that it's got an inherent danger to it. In that the public protector is really the bastion between the overwhelming power of the state and the ordinary citizen.
Yes.
You know, and if it's easy to get rid of the public protector, because the problem is that we think of the public protector as the individual,
Yeah.
not the office. But in any case, the incumbent holds the whatever of the office. So there is a danger in it that you it's almost like, well, I was about to say cool, but it's not a cool. But the point is that that kind of thing can easily beget a trend.
Yes.
Where, because of the majorities that are there in Parliament can easily, from time to time, say, no, this public protector, for whatever reason, we're not happy with.
Yeah.
Shall we impeach? You know, I don't know. Is she challenging the impeachment, though? I'm not sure.
I don't
I
think
didn't
so.
hear
think,
of the challenging of the
And I was also
impeachment.
wondering, isn't there a term and
Yeah,
an
the
end
term.
anyway?
Yeah, it's supposed
coming
to be
an end
ending
this month.
this month.
October.
So it kind of
October,
coincided with
Yeah.
Yes.
So there might be nothing to be gained out of it anyway.
But also, I mean, what does that do to not necessarily now the office, but to the individual? You know, in terms of her going forward, career, and all of those things. You know, don't those things really matter as now to you as your career as an advocate? She's an advocate, I mean, and to have to leave office under those circumstances. I mean, for the previous public protector, we know she's a Stellenbosch.
She was offered the professorship. And
Yes.
the chair,
Yeah,
the
you know.
chair and the professorship.
I mean, so what do you think this will do to her now, her career going forward?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure
because I mean that has to count for something. Of course, I mean
depending, because I'm assuming that whatever the case may be, she might have a sympathetic block to her. There might be those who sympathize with her.
Yes.
Didn't the EFF come now saying, hey, this is a problem? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I mean, EFF doesn't hold,
you know,
the final say.
But my point is that they would be representative of some sentiments in society.
Yes, no, definitely.
So there could be units that could say, no, actually, this is the kind of person we want. Because this government or this ruling party.
But those people think that they don't have the same power as.
No, I mean in terms of he as an individual.
Yeah, no. I mean in terms of the esteem that comes with, you know, whatever. Because I mean, look at the esteem from you know, the previous public protector moving to Stellenbosch. You know, do you think that Mkhwebane would maybe move to Forte or being given a seat in the UCT, for an example? I mean, after this whole sort of that's where I'm coming from in terms of
I hear you.
That esteem,
reputationally.
Reputationally, I think she's gonna work very hard, or maybe she's gonna disappear for a very long time.
But the two public protectors have been very different.
Yeah, they're two worlds apart.
In fact, even the previous one, he was lucky to get the previous public protector before Mkhwebane. I mean, before
Madonsela.
The
dude.
That dude went to what is this? Human
rights.
Human rights.
Yes.
He went to Human Rights Commission.
Was it Jody?
I forget his name.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I wanted to put across as far as that is concerned.
I'm saying worlds apart because I think most of us even got to know that there's a public protector.
With
Madonsela.
Madonsela, actually, I think she brought
and yet there'd been like 3 before.
No, I think everyone can credit Madonsela for actually making that office vibrant and in people's mouths, because it really had a sting in her period where she was there. What's the other thing, Spokie?
Oh, okay. No, I was looking at the previous public protectors. Okay, there was Selby Bakwa, and then there was Lawrence Mushwana.
Yes. That's the guy, Mushwana. Okay, I'm not gonna go into Mushwana.
Okay, I was saying Kolapen was at the Human Rights Commission, then became a judge.
Yes. Okay. Okay, and then New York was flooded by heavy rains, which have partially paralyzed the subways and the airports. So yeah, I saw pictures of people like the water's up to their knees on the streets of New York. So that's how bad it is. And we also have those torrential rains in the Western Cape as well that caused havoc.
Western
So
Cape was terrible,
Western
guys. I
Cape,
mean,
yeah.
it's still, I think they're still in the mopping up phase.
I watched some of those videos in New York,
Mm.
and I mean, the couple of things came to mind. Number one was the reality of climate change.
Yes,
yes. And then the second one is almost a kind of vindication. We've always been hard on
on ourselves, yeah,
and saying we're not ready for such disasters. Our city planning is bad, or engineering is poor, and so on. But I think the reality of climate change that no one could have actually adequately prepared their infrastructure for this kind of thing. If it could happen in New York,
Hawaii, I mean, also.
I mean, when our roads get flooded, I always think this is incompetence. This is the reason why. It's because
in first world countries.
But you probably can see that no amount of planning could have anticipated this kind of.
It is vindication.
This kind of weather patterns that we're having now.
And it's bad. You mentioned something about Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii, the fires in Hawaii also was a big thing. I mean, it wiped quite a large surface of the Hawaiian towns. I forget the name of that town.
Not Honolulu.
Not Honolulu.
Okay.
And there was about 99 or close to 100 people who died as a result of that. So really the issue of the climate change and how those fires, because for me, fires normally you would expect them to, in people who are in like villages, but I mean to burn a town. Remember, the houses are across from each other.
Yes.
It's like if you would get a fire that would burn Vincent all the way here to Nahun, and you wouldn't expect that because there's not much ground, for that fire to move.
Do we know what started the fire though?
I don't know. There was. I mean, we must check it maybe next week. But all I know is that in terms of what I saw on the news, it was really strange for us, because you would expect where people who are staying, like where we stay, in Summer Pride, where the houses and there's a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Amahlati around us. We have large fields
like
there. Yeah, where actually, if there was to be a fire, you would expect it to move. Yeah. But there it's in the town.
So much to consume.
You got tar roads and all of those things, but the town was devastated.
In many of these countries they build using wood. And
that's what I was about to say.
And the other reason why I'm asking is because Hawaii still has a lot of active volcanic activity.
Yes.
Which could start a widespread fire in the first place. Like it doesn't start in one place.
Yes.
And spread. So that's why I'm interested to find what started the fire. That might explain why.
Man, there was sinamahlati there's farmers that have a wide spread of amahlati there. And wakusichapa serious, and there was this fire brigade. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm still far from the fire part. So
talking about fires, there's also a bushfire that is happening at Richards Bay as well.
Yeah, Richards Bay also is under fire.
Some of these fires are very hard to put out.
And apparently there's a bit of wind, so it's not really easy.
I mean, look, there was one in Canada. Some of our guys from Fire. What is that company?
Which one?
Is it Fire?
Oh yes, is that a couple of years ago?
No. This year.
Again.
Yeah, this year they
Which
went
one?
to Canada. What do they call that company where these guys, I mean, they call it what? Something Fire though. These are guys that actually do firefighting in the rural. They are based in the rural Transkei.
They're almost like Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
Oh, like firefighters.
Firefighters. And so they've just returned from Canada. They went to fight. Remember that fire in Canada, actually the smoke was seen in New York.
What?
That's how big that fire was. Yeah.
Jeez.
I
There
mean,
was a huge smoke in New
We
York.
had fires the other year in California that raged on for weeks.
Oh,
Then
yes.
the Australian one during just before
yeah.
COVID.
Yes, yes, I
as well.
remember
So,
that
yeah,
one.
So
can be
it's
quite-
tough.
Oh, my goodness.
Spokie, what else?
Okay, just to quickly wrap up, two more things before I get to the investment conference. We mentioned the wife of the ousted president of Gabon, who's been charged with money laundering and other offenses. This is a month after the coup toppled her husband. So they've been basically,
Yeah.
milking the oil-rich country of certain
Of
funds.
monies, yeah.
Yeah. And then also the USA is also gearing up for elections. And as we know, Trump is on a campaign trail as well as Biden as well.
Did you see the indictments
I
against
couldn't believe it.
It's like the
Yeah.
nerve for me.
I couldn't believe it.
the indictments against Trump? I mean,
And then you still want to run
yeah.
for...
But I mean,
Yeah.
but remember, Trump never accepted the whole
Those-
idea of being beaten
Yeah.
by Biden.
No, he never.
So-
He's a sore loser.
So I think the thing is,
He has to beat him
but also,
somewhere
I
or the
mean,
other.
the Republicans
in fact,
also.
he literally said, even no better on Biden now.
Exactly. No, he's a sore loser.
Oh,
He
but
must accept. He must accept.
I think before you get to the investment, let's touch on this purpose. I think it's one of the sort of most news that kind of rocked the week. Purpose is now the vying for the premiership of the KZN province. So Papa, as we know, is an Mgeni water. I'm sorry, is an Mgeni
It is water.
municipality. No,
municipality, yes,
municipality
mayor.
mayor.
Which is
So-
Maritzburg, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this guy, I mean, and then there's been a lot of other things that came up about his fiance was being given part of to run a contract related to Mgeni.
That nepotism.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting though that people have been quiet about this, and immediately is being mentioned by the DA that he's going to be leading that.
Pum.
People, yeah. So, but I mean, it's an interesting sort of. I don't know what your take is, Hector, on this boy, Papas.
Look, I didn't know him well until this whole thing broke. But what it does say, which is something you have just hinted at now, we always ask ourselves,
Exactly.
because this is exactly how countries go down. So they had this, they were privy to this. For someone who was holding public office, and what were they doing? They were holding it. As, I don't know, as a weapon to use and at some convenient time. later.
Yes.
So you
Putting
find
the
that
spanner in the works.
It's not about justice. This is not about.
No.
It's not about doing the right thing. You know, it's almost like a kind of blackmail.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it is.
No, it is.
rather than justice. You know,
It is. I think. I mean, also, I think the other thing that you hear coming from, particularly from the ruling party in that province, the ANC, is the idea that him speaking isiZulu and sort of being seen to be sympathetic to black people's plight, and that's what then the DA is using. That language is being. I mean, he went and sent Watumela Zankomo's ZDA to the Butelezi family, and a lot of people actually, even on Twitter, they were about his demeanor and how he delivered that whole sort of
but this,
setup. He was
incidentally, this is exactly the kind of thing the SG of the ANC was saying should be appreciated about the mayor.
yeah.
Somebody who's in touch,
Yeah.
Yes,
and because really, I mean, in terms of that part of his mayorship, which is no one is talking about how he's performing at the moment. In terms, no one is putting a smudge on his performance there as a mayor, except for this one thing with the fiance that we are hearing about. So it's interesting.
It also teaches us this whole thing about how one fly can spoil entire bottle. Of
Yeah,
exactly.
So one needs to be careful about
that.
That is an interesting one, and I hope. I think for me, 2024 is really gearing up to be very interesting. Rise Mzansi has also been given a green light We'll
Huh?
be speaking to them that they can now contest for the elections next year. So I saw that in the news, and that then means that there comes in another player who will be taking some of the votes, or who's planning to contend with some of the votes that are coming up there for 2024. We know my man as well is putting
Yes,
himself out there,
he is.
so it's going to be tough in 2024.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting election. It's
Yeah.
gonna be interesting, but
But I think it's going to be just a lot of fragmentation, lots of small players coming into it.
yes.
Which I think also it will maybe speak to one of the most topical things about the issue of cooperation. What is the word?
Coalition.
Coalition. Yes.
Yeah.
This
Because what you need ideally
Yes.
is a much larger opposition party.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Instead of the
Instead
breakdown,
of a proliferation
yeah,
of small
yeah.
ones.
No, it's true.
Yes.
And of course, I mean, we know that the moonshot, as it were, is probably hanging by its threads. At the moment, it looks solid, but when that time comes,
Yeah.
and
gonna
people
be-
as they campaign, because that's also another moment of fragmentation. The
Mm.
campaigns.
Mm.
Because these guys are going to be campaigning individually. They will go into their own corners and campaign. And eventually now you take whatever you campaign for and you put it into a coalition and say,
Yes.
okay, these are the votes that I got, and what is the coalition going to do for me?
Exactly.
In order for it to work. So guys, time is 3:31. Let's do a song.
Oh, sorry, talking
Yeah.
about elections, Eswatini also, they were voting
Oh
this
yeah,
weekend.
That
On
would be interesting
Friday.
to
our
see.
neighbors.
Interesting to
Yeah,
see what
because
comes of it.
apparently the monarch always interferes. So apparently the three guys that were running for prime minister and who were in the voting campaign, apparently two of them were arrested, and the third one is in exile. That was the prior elections. I think it was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So there's lots of intimidation that comes when it's elections in that country. So
Yeah, there you run.
Eswatini is still a monarchy.
it's still a monarchy.
You
yeah.
run at the behest of the king. So if the king doesn't want apparently political parties, so individuals can contest.
Yes.
So not political parties. So you have to be an individual.
Then if you criticize, orange uniforms, and then
Okay, guys, let's take a break by going into some music. And once we've done that,
This is KNR
we'll come back.
Radio
and
according
discuss
to you.
one of our big topics. Spoke and yeah, man.